Hello, and I want to welcome everyone to our very first Bookish webinar. If you're not familiar with me, my name is Aliah Kimbrough, and I am the founder of Gems in Publishing. We are a TikTok and Substack dedicated to the publishing industry. We started out really as a job board and have expanded into events, resources, and of course now webinars. And I'm so excited today to be here with coach, consultant, and author of In This Season, Tammy Jones. How are you today?
I'm well. How are you, Aliah?
I'm good. Can't complain. Can't complain. Well, one thing about Gems in Publishing, we really try to find those hidden resources, whether it's jobs, events for people to go to. But I wanted to kind of start that out with you as well today. What's a gem? Maybe something small but meaningful. It could be a song lyric, a book, a movie that you're really loving in this season.
So to me, a gem is, as you expressed, something that I am loving in this season. And right now, that's freedom.
Yeah.
That's freedom to make my own decisions about where I want to go next.
Yeah. And I love that. And I really love how that's going to tie into our conversation this evening. So I want to go ahead and get right into it. For those who aren't familiar with Tammy, I had the pleasure of speaking with her a couple weeks ago a bit about her new novel, her title, and honestly, some of the work that she's doing in her life. And it was so inspiring that I just knew I had to try to bring it to the platform. But you've been very open about being one of the 300,000 Black women laid off this year, which is such a major transition for anyone. But what I thought was really cool was that this book actually began years before that. So how did those years of preparation and that recent experience come together to really shape the final book?
Yeah, absolutely. So probably in 2019, I started seeing things change within the federal government. Things I didn't like. I found myself in a space where I did not enjoy getting up, going into the office. And this is all pre-COVID. I didn't enjoy getting up, going into the office. And mind you, it was a job that I really, truly loved. I was excited when I started my career, but I started finding that the mission, the goals, those in leadership position no longer valued it. And for me, it was who I was. My at my core is to serve as a leadership strategist, helping women, helping girls to move forward and to pursue their goals. And when I started noticing that it wasn't happening anymore, uh, I started to get uneasy and think about what's next for me. And so, as I mentioned, it started in 2019. I had a coach that I would express my feelings to, and with that coach, the coach encouraged me to perhaps start writing about it.
Mhm. Yeah, and I love that. I think for many people who are going to watch this replay, we also have come to times in our life where we have no choice but to express it. And for me, that came in the form of job searching, which led me to start the
Mhm.
job board even after I found my position. So I definitely understand how circumstances can push you to those creative outlets. But I'd love to know, what does In This Season represent for you personally? Was there a particular moment or revelation where you knew that, okay, this is ready for me to put it out into the world?
Absolutely. So for me, in this season, it was a season that I was going through where I really didn't realize that I could actually call it a season. I just thought that, oh, this is my life, and I wasn't happy with it.
Yeah.
But I realized later on, as I started writing, as I started journaling, that I'm going through this, and so are a number of other women, women who look like me, women who don't look like me, but identify with the challenges. And so, walking one day after journaling, I realized that something's happening. There's a shift that's occurring that I'm not too excited about, but I'm going to figure this thing out. And so, as I'm walking, I'm listening to a podcast. I hear the woman say, this is just a season. And I said, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. I am in a season of life that I have the power to change.
Yeah.
And so it started shaping what I was writing about, what my challenges were, what I heard from other women. And it finally came together once I made that decision. You mentioned me being one of those 300,000 women who were laid off. I made that decision to walk away from a job that I really did care about. And so I had the opportunity to continue writing and to continue pulling all my thoughts together. And then I added it from pen to paper. And and I said, it's time for other women and anyone else who's interested in reading it to really hear what I have to say. Because I know just from coaching women, just from talking to other women, they're going through the same thing.
Yeah. Wow. And I
Mhm.
know we're going to get into it later a little bit more about your coaching journey and just your experience with people in general. But for those who are watching this webinar, if you could summarize the one of the main themes or lessons in one sentence of this book, what would it be?
Yeah. So in this season really brings you back to self. It brings you back to your purpose. It is not meant to be read in a day, in a week, not even in a month, but it's to help you um, think about where you are in your life and where you want to be. So that's it. That's the gist of it. It's a roadmap to help you get back to self, to who you are.
Yeah, I love that. And literally, I'm about to pick it up again. Okay, so I'd love to talk a bit about the publishing journey. We have so many authors and people who are interested in publishing their own stories. So I'd love
Mhm.
to know kind of the beginning of that journey and why did you choose to hybrid publish or did you think about self-publishing or what did that look like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I really didn't know. All I knew is I started writing. I started writing. And because I wrote for a living, I did my own editing. I did my own editing and I decided that, I had an idea of what I wanted it to look like. But after doing all of that writing, rewriting, and it took me a while. It really took me a while because with my previous job, I was I was inclined and it was expected, if you will. It was expected to make sure that you crossed every T, dot every I, everything was okay. And so it took me a while to actually decide that, oh, I'm going to hand this over to an actual publisher.
Yeah.
Um, I it really did. And even a month after I reached out to the publishing company, I said, I have it. I have this manuscript. I want to give it to you. But it took me a month because now I'm rereading it all over again. And
Hmm.
so, but I knew I had to give it to somebody else and who was really an expert in publishing and who was actually who could give it a different, um, set of eyes on it and from a different perspective to tell me, oh, yes, this makes sense. No, this doesn't make sense because in my head and in my mind, sure, it does. Because this is what I want to articulate.
Yeah.
But finally giving it over. It took a while, but I did it. And so, and then just the work behind it because it's not as easy as we think to write and then to publish. It's not as easy. And at least for me, it was more work. And that was work that I wanted to leave to the experts and not myself.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think that's so hard. And I work with a hybrid publisher, and we see clients who, you can be as involved or as hands-off as you prefer with our publishing models. And people think that they want to be in the weeds. And then when you see what the weeds look like, you're like, okay, maybe I
Yeah.
really do want more of a bird's eye view. But I'd love to
Mhm.
get into maybe some of the biggest surprises or lessons that you learned throughout your publishing process.
So I would say that. So I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
Just from the very beginning, the questions that the publisher had asked. She said, "Well, where do you want to upload? Who do you want to work with?" And all I knew was Amazon. That's
Yeah.
it, right? KDP. That's it. Uh, Who else is out there? So she gave me insight to who else was out there, where I could, actually share the work that was created. She was able to do things that I just didn't know. I didn't know. And so I think it's for me, the best choice was to go with a publishing company and not do finish this project on my own. Had I done that, it probably would still be sitting on the shelf right now.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think one of the best things about publishers is, ideally that they are motivating you, but also aiding you along. Because when you are so closely personal to something, it's like, oh, this is literally my baby. I birthed this.
Hmm.
And we're able
Hmm.
to give more of an objective view. Like, yes, and now let's help the baby begin to attend school and begin to meet other
Yes.
people. Um,
Yes.
what would you do differently next time, assuming that there will be a next time?
Yeah, most definitely there will be a next time. I would actually start out from the very beginning with the publisher.
Yeah.
I would not go at it alone because again, I went back and forth with, am I going to self-publish? Am I not going to? I want to present my ideas to a publishing company, to a publisher, and ask them to help me
Hmm.
um, birth this idea, right? I personally would not go at it alone. Um, it was too much. And
Yeah.
sometimes, again, you get in your head and these ideas, they start occurring, and then you have this idea over here. The publisher is there to help you stay focused.
Yeah.
And for me, that's what will work best.
Okay. And for those who may be watching a little bit confused, I want to really clarify the difference between self, hybrid, and indie. So, self-publishing ideally would be when the author goes through the entire process alone or mostly alone. They write, they find the cover design, they kind of do all of the KDP, all of those steps by themselves. Indie and hybrid publishing can look a little bit different. For where I work currently, we have hybrid publishing where you could do completely like Ingram Spark and try to get into bookstores, and that's more of a it's more reminiscent of a traditional publishing process, or something a little bit more custom where you have the flexibility to kind of pick and choose. And I think that's kind of more similar to what you did, Tammy. And I'd love
Yes.
to know. It is kind of hard to have that control, but it can also be really beautiful. So, was there anything about having that creative control and that fluidity that really spoke to you?
Yeah, because they were my ideas. They were based on my experiences because I don't want anyone to tell me what my experiences are.
Yeah,
So, meaning, don't go in here and change this to what you think sounds best,
yeah,
as opposed to what actually happened. I want the meaning to remain. Now, if it's editing that needs to occur, based on the way it was written, I'm okay with that. But don't go in and change the entire meaning behind it. And because you don't want to offend someone,
yeah.
because in certain chapters, I speak the truth. I really speak my truth and
Hmm.
what happened with me. And so um, I didn't want that control
Yeah.
to be taken away from me, and it wasn't. And so that was the beauty of it. It wasn't.
Yeah. Good storytelling has authenticity and vulnerability, and sometimes that's not always the picture, perfect package that, people would want it to be. It's not always palatable. So I really applaud you for speaking your truth, especially in a climate that is seeking to suppress truth, especially about that sector of our nation. For
Hmm.
anyone who
Hmm.
is watching this and who wants to publish their own story, where do you advise they start?
I would advise them to do research, research publishers, look at the publisher's previous work, um, and look to see how to see if you are a good match, if the two of you work together. Have those conversations up front, ask questions, whatever questions you might have about that process, even about what's out there.
Mhm.
I think it's important. I kind of waited until the end to go back and say, oh, this book is similar to something that this author over here has written,
Yeah,
or this is similar to this author, and this is what this is the audience for this type of book.
yeah,
Um, I think it's important, and especially with a publisher, um, they can help guide you to that as opposed to you finding out and going through this at the end. And so I think, I spent a lot of months. In fact, I thought I was the manuscript was complete over a year ago.
hmm
And I went back and I picked it up. Had I been working with a publisher, the publisher probably could have told me that it was finished a long time ago. So time is important. And I think you can save a lot of time from the beginning, researching your publisher and who you want to work with and allowing them to be at the beginning as opposed to after the manuscript is complete.
yeah. And having those comp titles are so important when we look at authors who may consider themselves more in the self-help category. They'll look at like Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins and say, "This is my book." And we're like, that may be similar to your audience, but don't know necessarily if that is your book. So it's so important to have those things in mind, but also be able to recognize how unique your story is and how it may position you a little bit differently than some of these other comp titles. And
Mhm.
I really love how overall the main theme every time I talk to you is that you're thriving through change and that as your season changes, you are evolving. And you talk often about rest, identity, and purpose throughout this title. So for those who are navigating a difficult transition right now, what advice do you have for them?
My advice is to really think about what is most important to you. Think about those things that you can't put down at night, right? Those things that you wake up early in the morning to get back to.
Mhm.
That's where your purpose lies. And I want people to understand that. Sometimes we lose that. We lose that sense of because someone has told us, oh, we're great at this over here. I might be good at it, but I don't really like it,
Yeah.
right? Because that's not what's keeping me up at night. And so it's important. And throughout the book, that theme is there that, get back to your why, get back to you. Those things that, I always talk about when we were kids. We said we wanted to grow up to be this over here. For some, it happened. For some, it did not. Some, it did not. Sometimes we try to live out everyone else's dream and not our own.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important that we get back to who we are, to what we are passionate about. And if you pause, you take a minute to think about those things because a lot of times we don't. We just go through the motion
Mm.
and we don't stop to think about what we really enjoy doing.
Yeah.
For me, in this season of my life, that's where I am. I am in the season of blossoming
Yeah.
where I now know what I like. I've always known what I didn't like, but I know what I like and what I want to do and the direction that I want to move forward. And I think we don't because we get so busy with life, so busy. We have to take care of the family. We have to, we have our jobs over here. We have this. There's so many things coming at us, especially women. So many things coming at us that we don't take the time to really think about, well, what's best for me?
Yeah.
What's best for me? We can't continue to pour from a half filled cup, right? And we end up burning out. We end up getting depressed, things of that nature. And um, so take the time to figure out your why. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think even just hearing you speak about that reminds me more about your experience in human capital. And I'd love to briefly mention how your coaching and consulting work has grown out of not only your professional journey, but also your personal journey.
Yeah. So I want to say that well, in fact, I have. I've always been the type of person who who cared about the well-being of others.
Yeah.
And from my own experiences, I wanted other girls, other women to have the joy that I had. And so I did whatever I could to make them see the value within themselves. I did whatever I could, whether it was providing them a card, a gift to say, hey, you're worthy, you're special. And as I became an adult, I found myself doing more of that. I was the friend that everyone would come to for advice. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, nobody can give me advice. Why am I giving everybody advice? Later, I realized that, hey, this is something that is unique to you, that it is a part of who you are and why you exist. I I did it as a part of my career, but then I ventured out, started my own consulting business, TMaree Solutions, where I said, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this freely without having those restrictions that my previous occupation had on me. Because, oh, you can't say this, or you can't say this, you can't advise them of this. Um, well, I want to be able to have that freedom. I want to be able to be real and raw with individuals, because that's what people want. People don't always want the warm and fuzzy because it's not leading to anywhere. Sometimes we have to really give them those hard truths. For me, being honest with me is what's important. Let me know. I might not like it, but it's going to help me grow. It's going to help me learn lessons. And my role, my job, as a person is to help people move forward, move to where they want to be, not stay in a place that I think they should reside.
Yeah. And to me, being a mentor, and even at my young age, I was like, "Ugh, it's hard. Like, oh, I don't, how can I pour out when I can't, like, I feel like no one's pouring in. And that can
Mhm.
be a unique disadvantage for people who are tasked and gifted with, being able to coach and consult. But I just love the way that it seems that you have found your own way to balance kind of that dichotomy and to continue to blaze forward. So for those who are watching, and they want to know more, of course, you can get In This Season on Amazon. We'll have the link available in the description box. But for those who want to connect with you personally, where can they do that?
Sure, they can definitely go to my website, TMaree Solutions.com, and feel free, to reach out. As soon as you log on to the site, it's asking you to connect with me. And so send me an email and I will definitely respond.
Perfect. And so my last thing, we're going to go back to the beginning and think about our
Okay.
gems. So what's a gem that you want to leave with someone, either something you've learned through your publishing, writing, or simply just being present in this season of your life?
Yeah. So again, one of the gems that I wholeheartedly believe is important is that get back to your why. Find out what your why is. It could be what you wanted to do and be when you grew up, or it's something that you're very passionate about. But find out what's your why, because I believe a lot of people have lost it and they really don't know. So get back to your why. That's the gem.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Tammy. And for those who watched for our first ever bookish webinar, I want to invite you to stay connected with us, gemsandpublishing.substack.com or Gems and Publishing on both TikTok and Instagram. I hope you guys have a great night.